Hey guys, and welcome back to the NerdPub podcast. I'm your host Adam, and today I am again joined by my lovely wife Kelsey, who is a self-published author that operates under the name KJ Bryan. How you doing today, Kelsey?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing pretty good. So before we get started with today's topic, I was going to ask if you wouldn't mind, telling us a little bit about yourself, and talk about some of the books that you're known for and some of your upcoming projects.
Sure. So I operate under the pen name KJ Bryan, and I also write books under my real name, which is Kelsey Warren Bryant. Currently, I am working on the sequel to one of my books under the Kelsey Warren Bryant name. It's a young adult series called Victoria Benson that follows the story of a young vampire hunter. If you're interested in young adult supernatural fiction, definitely check that out. I'm really excited about that. I'll be releasing the sequel to that this year. And if you're interested to learn more, you can find me at kjbryan.com. That's KJBREN. Wait, I didn't do that right. KJBRYEN. I promise I can spell, guys.
I hope you can.
And you can also find me at facebook.com/KJBryan.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kelsey. Now, today's episode is a special occasion because it's now officially May the 4th. So we'd like to wish all of our fellow Star Wars fans out there a happy Star Wars Day. And for today's episode, we thought it'd be kind of fun to give you guys a list of all of our favorite and maybe not so favorite experiences when it comes to Star Wars, or maybe some favorite or not so favorite moments from the films or from the books, comics, video games, TV shows, things of that nature. So, Kelsey, let's start with you. Give us one of your favorite experiences when it comes to Star Wars. It doesn't necessarily have to be right now like a favorite moment from the film, but just maybe a memorable moment that took place because of Star Wars.
I have a few. I think the most memorable Star Wars memory I have is going to see Force Awakens opening night.
Yes, that was really fun.
It was. Well, and I hope I didn't steal that from your list, but we went together, and it was crazy that night because the Warren Theater that we love to go to, it's a really nice theater, not very far from our house. It never did assigned seating before that.
Nope.
Right? Never. None of the theaters, actually, in the city that I know of ever did assigned seating, except maybe Penn Square. But, so we went there, and we got there early, and we even got to the theater early. But when we went in there, it was so crowded, and we were lucky just to get seated together. But I remember watching as people were coming in the door, and people were in groups, and they had bought their tickets, way in advance, and they could not be seated together. People had to be scattered throughout the theater.
Yeah, I remember
crazy.
that. There was this girl that was with her, I think it was with her fiance, and, she was telling us, oh yeah, people are just kind of, he's sitting way up there because that's, the only seat, and I had to find a seat way down here, and she was telling us all of their fun Star Wars things they like to do. She said that she bought him, an orange-colored custom lightsaber, and that for his birthday one year, she bought him, the original, Star Wars original trilogy videos, before they did all the special editions, and it was just getting so crazy. I remember people buying tickets to other movies, but sneaking into the Star Wars film, and people were leaving their jackets to save their seat while they went to the bathroom or something like that, and then people would just kind of come in and just kind of throw the jackets on the floor and just kind of steal their seats. I'm like, oh, there's gonna be some fights breaking out today, but
yeah,
it was crazy, but it was really fun because we went together, but I was just getting off work, so we had to drive separately. So we went with some of your work friends, and we actually had plenty of time to go up to the restaurant bar that was upstairs at the Warren. And I remember we had our little R2-D2 popcorn bucket.
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, that we still have today, and
that
was kind of one of our traditions to always take that to a Star Wars film. Unfortunately, we forgot it at the last Star Wars film that we the Rise of Skywalker. But we went to the Warren, we had some dinner, and we got popcorn. And when we got seated, we barely had enough time to get our seats. But I remember going in. I remember there like being like a quartet of musicians up next to the screen, just like playing music and everything. And I mean, it was a great time. And not only it was just, I think they were playing Christmas music, because I remember The Force Awakens, I believe, coming out like a few days before Christmas. But it was not only just the craziness of it, but it's just like I loved seeing the hype, because they have been hyping this movie for like a year, like for almost like a few years now. But like that, I remember that one last year working there, like where I was, working in retail, and we were like selling Star Wars stuff and all the decor. It was just, honestly, I mean, I was excited. Like I mean, I still love The Force Awakens, and but I just remember that like that was an amazing night, and just I loved everybody getting excited when they saw their favorite characters. Like when Han Solo came out, everybody applauded, or when the opening crawl, like you hearing John Williams' music, it was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. And to clarify, it wasn't the craziness that made it, great for me, that made it more memorable, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just what you said. It was how excited people were over this movie. And, I think the opening credits was one of the best parts of the whole thing. So that's definitely one of my favorite experiences.
Yeah, I mean, they did that a little bit when Revenge of the Sith came out, but it's just, I love it when like all the Star Wars fans are in there, whenever they hear that big blast of music and everybody's applauding, and it's just like, it's like, this is what it's all about right here.
Oh, yeah.
But mine is, I have a little bit of a few on my list too, but I'm going to do one kind of starting from the beginning. Now, I think Star Wars, like A New Hope, was actually one of the first movies I've ever seen in theaters. Like, I remember when they did the special edition, they released them in theaters. I remember watching A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. I was actually at my grandfather's lake house when I saw Return of the Jedi. I remember my brother buying or it may have been my dad, but we got the special edition trilogy, and we watched Return of the Jedi. But I started to become hooked on Star Wars. But what's kind of funny is that here's kind of a negative experience. I had nightmares because of A New Hope. I had my first ever nightmare because of A New Hope.
What about?
Well, I remember the dream pretty well, actually, probably because it was my first and it stuck with me. But I remember just, talking to someone. I can't remember who it was, or even if I knew that person or not. But we were talking about the scene where Luke comes back to his house on Tatooine and finds, the charred remains of his aunt and uncle. And, then this woman's face just made like a hideous, like she was just trying to explain it. Then she it's kind of like that scene from Pee-wee where Large Marge makes that hideous face and everything. It was kind of something like that. And then that like immediately jolted me and woke me up. And I was like maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I was just like, but no, I loved going to the theaters and watching them. And like, it's just, I kind of had that same reaction though when Empire Strikes Back. A friend of mine, Tanner, sent me a link that showed people's reactions to the Luke I am your father reveal, and I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, "Whoa, really?" And but yeah, but also going along with that, it's just like I was starting to get hooked on Star Wars, and I remember my mom bought me this little light up green lightsaber. It was Luke's, that when you kind of flung it out and like it extends, and like when you press a button it makes like a little bzzz. I just remember like, playing Luke Skywalker, like watching the movies and doing, the lightsaber fights with Darth Vader. And yeah, so I'd have to say, like, because that kind of, brought a lot of that, brought like a lot of good Star Wars moments for me. And, throughout the years, I like, maybe growing up, I kind of maybe took a break or kind of backed off a little bit from Star Wars and became kind of a casual fan of Star Wars, where I liked the movies, but didn't really pay attention to it other than that. But it wasn't until Force Awakens came back that I just started getting hooked on it again.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, first of all, that nightmare sounds terrifying.
no, it was.
And would terrify me as an adult. Second, you had the fancy lightsabers then. The 90s flip out lightsabers, that you can contract. But if yours lit up and made sounds, that was a fancy one.
Yeah, it was. I got it for Christmas one year, and I just loved it. Like, it didn't it didn't sink back into the hilt all the way. But it was still cool that you could just flick it out and just press a button, and you hear that little meow, and then whenever you hit something with it, you hear the bzz, bzz,
Mm-hmm.
No, it was a lot of fun, and I even had a little toy of Han Solo's blaster.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a Stormtrooper blaster, and me and my friends would always go out and play Star Wars. I'd probably be the Jedi, or I'd be Han Solo or the Stormtrooper, and that was a lot of fun. I remember just the '90s. It was, for me anyways, it was fun being a Star Wars fan.
Mm-hmm.
But so do you have any least favorite experiences when it comes to Star Wars?
I do.
Oh.
Well, okay. I'm gonna just clarify one thing. I was not a Star Wars fan until I was probably maybe 17. My brother watched the movies when he was a kid, and I always thought that was his thing, and I was never really, interested in it. And then I became a fan later. So I did end up seeing Revenge of the Sith in theaters, I think with him. And I wasn't into Star Wars yet when that came out. So I didn't know much about it already going into the theater to watch that movie. But then, two guys directly behind us throughout the whole movie, anytime Yoda spoke, they would repeat it. What he said in an obnoxious, loud voice. And it totally ruined the whole movie for me.
No.
And I just wanted to get out of there. And I think for a while after that, I still wasn't into Star Wars. Just because, that one experience was the one chance I gave it. And then I couldn't even like the movie. But I eventually liked it when they came out on DVD. And I watched Revenge of the Sith and the prequels. And then that led me to start watching the older ones too.
Oh, so you started with the prequels.
I did. I actually started with Revenge of the Sith, not the first two.
That's actually a very interesting... I actually didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting place to start. I mean, at that point you'd be like, I don't understand any of this. And then I
kind of got the gist. I don't know. I had a few questions, but for the most part, I kind of understood it, and I was able to connect with the characters and the story, and I think that's what kind of got me to go back and watch Clone Wars and Phantom Menace, and then later the
Oh, you mean Attack of the Clones, yeah.
Oh, shoot, yes.
Yeah, here's another, negative experience that I've had, and I promise we're not going to spend too much on the negative. It's just, I remember going to see Attack of the Clones in theaters, and we were getting up to that part where it was at the Battle of Geonosis. But I was with my dad and my brother Scott, and he, we were just watching it, and, we were at that scene where Mace Windu has his lightsaber up at, Jango Fett's neck, threatening him, saying, hey, stay still. And then we just kind of heard two people in the back just kind of, shouting at each other. And to this day, I still don't know what they were arguing about. I just heard people just arguing. And then we heard, other people, saying, oh, no, look at this. And then I turned around, and there was these two guys just, fighting and beating each other up and everything. And,
oh, my gosh.
I looked up, and then my dad kind of, kept his arm out there, keeping both me and my brother calm and everything. And then security came in, and then the manager came and said, hey, everyone, we're sorry about all that. We're sorry for the interruption. We're gonna rewind the film a little bit and pick back up where we left off. And that's probably, that's probably one of the, that's the only other negative experience that I had. Everything else was, like, except for, like, parts of the movies that I didn't like.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I haven't had too many bad experiences, when it came to Star Wars, other than that, and, having a nightmares from New Hope. But, another fun, positive, it was actually because of you. I just remember coming home one day, like, and I was having a terrible, terrible, terrible day. And this was, like, maybe a couple of months before The Last Jedi came out.
Mm-hmm.
And because I remember, like, I bought all this stuff for my PlayStation, like, for this Star Wars game that I had. And I found out that, after I spent money on it, that I couldn't get it. And I was just so upset. And because there's other things that I needed to do and other things I needed to get. And I was just so mad. And then, because, that was, that expansion on the PS4 cost like $25. And so we went to Barnes & Noble just to kind of, take my mind off of it. And there was a book that I've been wanting, From a Certain Point of View.
Mm-hmm.
And which I still love this book to this day. For those of you that don't know, From a Certain Point of View is like it's basically like it's a New Hope, but it's like from the perspective of most of the characters in the film. Like maybe the bartender at the Mos Eisley Cantina, or the or maybe like Captain Antilles. That's kind of like their like perspective. It's like written by like 40 different writers. But anyway, it was like you bought that for me, and like instantly, just like I was no longer mad. Just like that made my day. And that's actually, you even signed it for me saying like, I hope this brings you a new hope. And I was just like, I see what you did there. So yeah, that was, I love that book to this day. And that's a book I'll always hold on to. So.
Aw, that's sweet, honey. I didn't know you were going to mention that. Well, you bought me a Queen's Shadow.
I did, yeah. Your favorite character is Padme.
Hate on me all you want, but I loved A Queen's Shadow by E.K. Johnston.
Yes, some of my friends they were not a fan of that book, and I think some of the questions after I told you that, after I told them that you liked it, they're like, I think you guys might need to go see, a marriage counselor or a divorce lawyer. But I haven't read it, but I've heard, from what you said, it's a decent perspective on a book, because it's more about Padme and the politics of Star Wars than it is about all the space battles and the lightsaber fights. And
well, right, and I think that's what I liked about it. It was just a different perspective on the Star Wars universe, so I liked that book a lot.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Another fun memory that I had that me and you both shared when it came to Star Wars is a friend of ours, Sheila. She had never seen any of the Star Wars films, and I believe this was. I think we were still living in Chickasha, Oklahoma at the time, because I think you were still in. I can't quite remember. It was a few years ago, but she had never seen any of the Star Wars films, but she had always wanted to. So. But all six, the original 6 were already out, so we were just like, well, I'll tell you what, how do you, like, the best way to see this is to see episodes 4, 5, and 6, because that's how most Star Wars fans had it, and then we start with the prequels. And so we did, we had, like, Star Wars marathon that day. I think we watched 4, 5, and 6 all in one day, and that took, like, like 8 to 9 hours. But it was fun, because we got pizza, and just... we watched it, and we saw how she was getting interested in it, and then she was just like, so we asked her out there, like, so do you want to watch the prequels, like, are you invested? And she's just like, I do have questions, so yeah, I do want to see them. And we were like, yeah.
Yes, we've converted someone.
Brought them over to the dark side. But no, that was fun, because then we came back like maybe a couple of weeks later, and we rented the prequels, and we sat through all 3 of them, and again, we had like some snacks, and that was fun. And it was just fun to, like, it's always fun to get to relive those, and just, I love all the marathons, not like we still have marathons of the films to this day. Like we recently just watched all the prequels. So
Yes, we did. Actually, speaking of marathons, that leads into one of my memories, which was before I met you, I think right before I went to college. Me and a friend from high school, we thought it would be a good idea to have a full marathon, as there were only 6 movies at the time, of all 6, to watch 1 through 6 in order, one day, one sitting. I can't really describe that day to you, except that by the end of it, we didn't want to hear the word Yoda, the word Star Wars, the word lightsaber. We didn't want to hear the intro music. We wanted nothing to do with it for about 24 to 48 hours afterwards.
that's kind of how I feel when you make me watch Harry Potter marathons. So.
Oh, stop it. You love those.
Sure, honey. But no, like I said, we still have these marathons to this day, and I mean, we've watched them in several different orders, like the what is it called, the machete order, where you watch like 4 and 5, and then you skip 1, watch episodes 2 and 3, and then end with 6. Mm-hmm. And I mean, geez, even with the new 3 movies now, it's just like we have to officially like change that order now, or I mean, we haven't had too many marathons with the new trilogy, mostly because The Rise of Skywalker just now recently came out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still enjoy going to see the films. Like, I was gonna say like I liked Force Awakens and I liked Rogue One a lot, and Solo, yeah, that was decent. But it was just, I don't know, it was just The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, in my opinion, were good movies.
Yeah.
It's just, I just don't really agree with the direction that they went. And I know that, like, that's all because of, poor planning. And it's just, I mean, I just remember, I mean, spoilers if you haven't seen the films and want to, but, like, whenever Luke Skywalker, like, became one with the Force in that last one, I just felt like a part of me died.
Yeah?
It's just like, because I saw like a hero growing up, like a childhood hero, just kind of lose faith in himself and thought that he was no longer needed. And I'm just like, that's not Luke Skywalker though to me. And
actually, that is one of my least favorite moments list. Not the part where he turns into the Force, but the fact that in The Last Jedi that he totally turned his back on the Force.
Yeah, that's, and I think I remember watching interviews or reading interviews of Mark Hamill himself saying that, he didn't like it, and, he was just like, that's not who Luke Skywalker is, and it's just, and I was just like, I totally agree, that's just not, because you spend 3 movies of him trying desperately to learn how to become a Jedi like his father, but then you realize that he's trying to become his own Jedi, and, well, some of the new Disney comics kind of give you different perspectives on it, but it's just like this, like, you see Luke Skywalker be like the redemption, like he brought back the Jedi because, he overcame the dark side, he did what his father, failed to do, but then we get these new movies and it's just, he completely, I mean, I get that what he did was bad, but it's just like, I felt like that's not how I see Luke Skywalker handling it. Yeah. I mean, eventually he did come back and do the right thing, and admit that, he was wrong about what he did, but I was just like, man. Just like I said, the movies themselves are decent in my opinion. Like, that's just not how I saw, like, how some of these characters ended up. But I mean, and that's okay. I mean, like, I know that that's just how the story they were wanting to tell. And I mean, it was like around Force Awakens that I started reading, Star Wars Legends, which I'm going to get to that here in just a minute. But it's just, it's good to know that, like, even if, like, it doesn't end the way you wanted to in one version of the story, you have this other story. And hopefully, I hope, fingers crossed, and like again, I'll get to this in a minute that gets completed one day, but.
Well, I think we made a really smooth transition into favorite and least favorite moments in the Star Wars franchise.
That's right.
Yeah, with the new movies, I have a lot of favorite and non-favorite moments when it comes to the new films, particularly. Like I said, Luke turning his back on the Force was probably my least favorite moment out of all of them. And also, spoiler, but Rey's origin. That's all I'll say. Rey's origin. Not a fan. But I did love the lightsaber battles, and I loved Rey and Kylo Ren's dynamic throughout like the whole trilogy. I think that was done very well.
You see, in my opinion, though, it's just the Disney canon has borrowed certain elements from Star Wars Legends. Like in Legends, Luke's nephew becomes, a Sith Lord, or like he becomes Darth Caedus, or the Emperor comes back, and I'm just like, I was gonna say before we move to the movies, like that was like another favorite Star Wars experience is like as you know. And some of our listeners know, like for the past few months now, I've been live streaming and YouTubing with some other fellow Star Wars YouTuber fans like Matt Wilkins, the Geeks Addict, Stupid Chainsaw Productions, and much more. And we've been talking about our love of Star Wars, and we talked about like things that we didn't like from the movies or that we do like from the books and everything. And that's just been a great experience. And I just wanted to give them all a shout out, and I'm going to post links to their channels in the comments below. And real quick, I also want to give another shout out to a couple of Facebook pages. We have the Expanded Universe, where we just kind of talk about our love of Star Wars Legends. And I just recently started reading Star Wars Legends. Like I've just finished like the Darth Bane trilogy, and so I'm going to post a link to that. And I've also become acquainted, and I've talked to some of the or live streamed with some of the members of Twin Suns Foundation. And I'll post a link to their Facebook page. But, they're a nonprofit organization that tries to help get Star Wars books, into young readers' hands. So that way they can, they can introduce them to the Star Wars franchise. And recently they got a billboard up that that's, asking Lucasfilm, or, in this case now Disney, to, say, hey, our story is incomplete. We just ask that you please, finish writing out books and Star Wars Legends, and that way, and keep it labeled under Legends, so that way it doesn't interfere with, your new Disney canon. But anyway, yeah, like I said, like, it's like all of these guys, Matt Wilkins, Geeks Addict, Stupid Chainsaw Productions, and, really go check them out, because, they give great reviews over Star Wars books, and, also go check out those Facebook pages that I told you about. But where I was going with that is just that they borrowed so much from Legends that it's just like they had all of these great stories that I just kind of wish that Disney would have based their story more on that. I felt like that would make a lot of Star Wars fans happy. But I know that Disney was trying to, reach out to a new, reach out to a new group of fans. But it's just, I'm not, in the comics, Palpatine does come back. Spoiler alert. And but in the comic that I read, they explain it. They explain how he's able to come back, But in The Rise of Skywalker, that's just like, oh, Palpatine's back.
Yeah.
Just because. And they explain, and they do explain, Rey's, connection to Palpatine. And because, a lot of people were like, well, wait a minute, I've never once heard about Rey, the Emperor, having, a lover or a wife or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But, and spoilers, to you, because you haven't read, I haven't read it either, but I know what happens. It's just like, his son was actually just a failed, forceless clone of him, and I was just, but I don't know. It's just those were just kind of some of my least favorite experiences or moments from the Star Wars films. It's like I just kind of wish that they didn't bring Palpatine back.
Yeah.
It's just I thought that with Snoke there was more promise to that because it's something new. It's just basically you just basically said like the Skywalker saga was always a fight between the Skywalkers and the Palpatines.
Or they could have made it to where, when Kylo Ren kills Snoke in The Last Jedi,
Yeah.
where Kylo Ren was the villain.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
the entire villain. Like, you didn't need anyone else. It could have just been him. And you could have still followed the storyline of Rey trying to change him or, whatever. But, yeah, I totally agree. I think his presence was totally unneeded.
yeah, and it's just I think that it would have been. I can see why they didn't do that because they were trying to show that like with the Skywalker saga in general, one of the main themes is that we get is redemption because, I mean, Anakin became Darth Vader, and he did horrible things, but he turned from it and redeemed himself. Luke, almost killed his nephew, and that's horrible, but he gave up instead of trying to redeem himself. He just gave up on himself.
Those Skywalker men.
I know. And yeah, I remember seeing a meme about it showed Leia saying, "Hey guys, Leia saw her husband die, saw her son get turned to a Sith Lord, and saw her home planet being blown up, and she was never once tempted by the dark side. But I know that in the books they kind of." That's a little bit, of a stretch, but yeah, I know that they were just trying to show that the Skywalker men were redeemable. I'm just like, I kind of wish that they just kept Snoke, and because I felt like there's a lot more, there's like potential for a lot more new material, and I've never been that big of a fan of Palpatine coming back because I'm just like, no, I mean. I felt like when Vader tossed him down into that reactor, it's just the fight between, it was like the long 30-year struggle between Vader and Palpatine was finally done.
Yeah.
And it's just, and now they brought him back, and I'm just like, man, he just
doesn't die.
Yeah. But like I said, I still enjoy going to see the films. I still, like them. I just not really... I don't really agree with some of the decisions that they've made with them, but I'll still watch them and I'll still enjoy them. It's just, they're just, like I said, they're just not my favorite. And I will say another fun movie-going experience when it comes to Star Wars was with The Rise of Skywalker. We went with your brother, Blaine, and I don't know what it was, but it was just, they had so many previews.
Well, it wasn't just that. There was one preview that was like...
It was for Tenet, yeah.
It was like a 5 to 10 minute preview.
I know.
Just one.
I honestly thought we were in the wrong movie.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was 5 to 10 minutes, and we were just like, okay, come on. Like, the movie was supposed to start at 7 o'clock, and it started at like...
7:45, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like, come on, guys. And I remember, like, after we saw that 5 to 10 minute preview, the whole theater was quiet, and then your brother just, yelled out, "Star Wars!" And he got a chuckle from the audience. But yeah, it's just, even though, like, Disney has done some things with Star Wars that, I don't agree with, it hasn't kept me from enjoying the franchise as a whole.
Yeah.
And as I recorded a podcast with some of our friends that I'll release in a few days, but we were talked about, like, whether you're a fan of the expanded universe or Star Wars Legends or Disney, it's fine either way. If you like the other but dislike the other, that's fine. Just like, I've always tried to encourage fans when it comes to Star Wars, like, just find the part of Star Wars that you love and just stick with it.
Yeah.
And most of the friends that I live stream with, they're very good about, like, they're open that they don't like, the Disney canon, or there's some books or movies that they don't like, but, they don't they're just like, oh, well, I mean, if you like it, that's fine. I mean, but we just don't like it, you know?
Yeah, that's good.
But, but yeah, like, even with, when it comes to the Legends books, I just love those stories. Like, it's just, I think it's just another fun memory what was like playing the Knights of the Old Republic game, because I always wanted to play those games.
Mm-hmm.
And when they came out like on the Galaxy Store, I just downloaded it on my tablet, and man, that game is long, but man, it is so worth it, because you play as the character, spoiler alert, you play as the character that is revealed to be Darth Revan, and just playing that game got me interested in wanting to read all these new books. So I've read, the Revan book, I read Plagueis, I've read the Han Solo trilogy, and I read that right before the movie came out. And I was going to ask you, was it me, or was ever since the Han Solo movie that came out, has the thrill, the excitement for Star Wars just kind of gone downhill?
I think it's dwindled with every movie that's come out. I don't know why that is, or at least it has in the movie theaters. I mean, I've been able to tell, there was The Force Awakens, and everyone was so hyped about that, and then it feels like every movie we've gone to see after that, there's just been less and less and less.
With Rogue One, you still could feel that energy.
Yeah, maybe a little with The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But it felt like with The Rise of Skywalker, it was night and day compared to Force Awakens.
Yeah.
For me. And we went to see it in IMAX, I think.
I mean,
it was the day after, I think. I don't think we saw it opening night.
No, it was the day after. But, I mean, there were still people excited about it. People still applauded the film.
Yeah.
But it's just, I just kind of noticed that there was no more thrill for it, and I was just like, well, uh-oh, I started getting nervous there. I'm just like, I want more Star Wars stuff, guys, come on. Just like, but I do also, I thought this would kind of be a good time to kind of like move on, like stuff I'm looking forward to when it comes to Star Wars.
Oh, sure.
We're hoping within the next couple of years, when our daughter, is like maybe like 2 or 3 years old, like we're hoping to go back to Disney World. But one of our goals is to custom make a lightsaber at Galaxy's Edge at Orlando. I know that's going to be like a $200 experience. I'm just like, I don't know. It's just like they show you they give you all the pieces of the lightsaber. You get to personally pick your own color. Like you can get yellow, green, purple, blue, red.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looks like it's a fun experience, and one of my other goals is to captain the Millennium Falcon ride.
I was about to say, that's what I'm most excited about.
I know, because from what it looks like, it's like you're actually controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can, I mean, I could be wrong, but like it looks like you can actually move like the controls, and the screen moves with you, so it's like you're actually piloting it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most. And now, I remember talking to you about this a little bit. Recently, Disney has announced, or Lucasfilm, I mean, it's all kind of the same now, but they're coming out with a new story. It's not the Skywalker saga, the Skywalker saga, and it's called The High Republic. It's going to be a series of books and comics, and that's going to be coming out in August, I think, but it's set 200 or so years before The Phantom Menace.
Okay.
And from what I've seen of it so far, it looks pretty interesting. I'm going to give it a chance.
And this is canon?
Yes, this is the Disney canon. And
okay.
I'm still going to be reading Legends, because I really do want to read more of that story, because I really do like... I just kind of feel like that connects to the original films more than I thought, the sequel or the canon books do. But, I mean, like I said, I still like some of the canon books, but it's just like I've been really getting excited more about the Legends books, because like I just finished Darth Bane, and I read Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis was an amazing book, and I can go on and on about Darth Plagueis. I really love that book. But yeah, it looks pretty interesting, and like I said, I'll read it. I'll give it a chance, and but another thing that I've been excited for was that we and you both enjoy the Mandalorian.
Yes. I
That's
like that show a lot.
I know. I'm surprised at how much I like it. I didn't really pay much attention to the Mandalorians, and I'm not a big Boba or Jango Fett fan, but it's just like I was surprised at how much I like that show, and I don't know if it's just because we get sucked into the Baby Yoda hype, or
I think that's like half of the reason.
I think becoming parents, we kind of just like Baby Yoda, like I can see our kid doing that, and excuse me.
Yeah,
and,
I'm surprised by how much I like that show too, especially because it's kind of a space western.
Yeah,
And I don't really like westerns. I've never really watched a western that I've liked, so I guess western in space is what does it for me. I don't know, but I like that show a lot. When's the next season supposed to come out?
it's supposed to come out soon. I know they're releasing a documentary, and it may be out here before long. It's supposed to be today on May 4th. They're going to be releasing like a documentary, like behind the scenes, like of the Mandalorian, I believe.
Okay.
I haven't seen too much about it. I just know that it's coming. But yeah, like, is there anything upcoming Star Wars related that you're looking forward to?
Well, you stole my Disney park one.
Oh.
No, that probably is the biggest thing for me, is getting to take our daughter to Disney World and basically seeing the Star Wars park for the first time will be amazing. It'd be really sweet if we could check out that hotel too, although I don't know if we'll be able to, but that looks legit. And I don't know what else. I guess, the sequel to Queen's Shadow. I don't read a lot of Star Wars books. I've only read a few canon books. But this was the first one that I really liked, so the sequel to that, probably. But I think that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
It's still funny, like, with the, during one of the Geeks Addicts live streams, I think I remember telling you, but I told them that you liked Queen's Shadow, and they booted me from the live stream for like 3 seconds, and I was just like,
"Sorry, honey."
just like, they're like, "Don't blame me." yeah. They especially do not like Queen's Peril, which is the sequel coming out soon. Because I mean that's just them. Like they said it. I mean like. There's some books that they don't like that I like, and that I don't like and they like, and they just say like, yeah, just read it, and you might have a different opinion of it, but they really do not like that book, and they did an early review of it, so Geeks Addict did anyways.
Well, for me, Star Wars translates much better into film for me personally.
Yeah.
Just because visually it's a little more impressive than reading. Reading a chase through space or a lightsaber battle is a much different experience than seeing the visuals of it. So I guess most of the books haven't resonated with me as much as I thought they should.
It's definitely a different experience if you listen to the audiobooks, because they do lightsaber sound effects and blaster sound effects, so, and they have the music playing, so it's like that's normally how I read Star Wars books, is just by listening to them. So
Okay. Maybe I'll have to do that then. But those are probably what I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah, like I said, Disney World is one of them, and just there's not really much coming out also in terms of Star Wars. Oh, actually, before I forget, recently, when it comes to video games, like, they released Fallen Order, and that took me a few weeks to actually get, because I can't remember why it took me a while, but Fallen Order I fell in love with, and I know that you've been watching me, or just kind of like, just stroll into the living room, just like, oh, he's playing that Star Wars game again.
Yep.
But, but no, like, I really enjoyed Fallen Order. It's about a Padawan that, he watches his master die during Order 66, and it's definitely been it's definitely an up and down type of emotionally a game emotionally, but it's just so fun that you can find all these missing. You can read about all these relics. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones, like, but with Star Wars.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, like you can learn about the history of Kashyyyk, which is where the Wookiees come from, or you can go to Ilum, which is Ilum, I believe, is from Force Awakens, the Star Killer base. That's where Jedi's would go, Padawans would go to build their lightsabers, and you kind of learn about the history, like find some artifacts and some items, and kind of you kind of have this. It's called Force Echo, like you can just feel the Force around it, and just kind of tells a story. And so I really enjoyed that game, and I don't think there's any more Star Wars games coming out. Like I mean, I'm not sure. There could be. I just haven't seen them yet. When you have a kid, you just kind of like get the news in as you can.
So true.
Like most of the news that I get is just like they share like articles on Facebook or something. Like, oh, nice, and then I go to YouTube and find it. But
that's pretty much all my news is Facebook.
the most reliable news out there, But no, yeah, it's just I do need to finish. They're about to release. Today on May 4th, actually, they're about to release the last episode of the Clone Wars show, and I have to say, at first, I was not a fan of that show, or that final season. It was just like, okay, where are we going with this? And then, like, the last few episodes, it's gotten really intense. So I'm looking forward to finishing that here in just a bit. But yeah, other than that, I'm just excited for more Star Wars stuff to come. I know that there's talks of a new movie. I'm not sure when. I think it's like 2022 from what I remember. But we have no idea, like, what it's about. Like, there's no other news about it. Like, we don't know if it's, like... There's been so much Star Wars news that, we're going to get Old Republic movies or...
I was about to say, isn't there an Obi-Wan something that's supposed to come out?
Yeah, I think... Yeah, that actually got pushed back recently.
I've been waiting for that.
I know, I am too. Like, I read that Kenobi book, but that's now considered Star Wars Legends, and, my brother finished it recently. He liked it too. But I can't quite remember what's going on with it. I think they're fixing some script or story problems with it. I mean, that's what they've told us, and that's just what I've read so far. All I've kind of just focused on, really, though, is, like, it's been pushed back again, but I'm just like, oh, okay, It's still, as far as I know, it's still happening. But, if I'm wrong, then someone can tell me in the comments.
As long as it eventually comes out and Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan. That's all I care about.
Well, they did confirm that Ewan McGregor most likely is Obi-Wan.
Good.
And I am intrigued by that because I'm kind of wondering how that's going to happen. Because as far as I know, and like, Obi-Wan has not left Tatooine.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's used a lightsaber much ever since his fight with Anakin. And like when he moved on Tatooine, because lightsabers are now illegal.
Right.
And you being a Jedi on the run, you definitely don't want to attract the attention of the Empire. But I'm really intrigued to see how that's going to happen. It's definitely going to be interesting, and I am looking forward to seeing how that story pans out for the Disney canon.
Well, I hope they elaborate on that. The fact that he can't use his lightsaber very much, but he encounters some people that need help, and he has to somehow, be able to enter that situation and help them without revealing that he's a Jedi. That might be kind of interesting.
Well, that's kind of how it is in the Kenobi book.
Okay, yeah, I haven't read that one yet, but it's on my list.
I mean, not to spoil it, but he does not use his lightsaber very much, like maybe twice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, like the Kenobi show, I want to say I thought I heard some new shows, like some new animated shows might be coming out soon. I know we're definitely getting some more comics and books, but also because of, I wonder if anything has been postponed because of the craziness that's going on in the world right now. Like I said, I'll probably have to go and just start, just sit down, maybe while our kid's taking a nap, and just reading like all the upcoming news. I know that next month we're supposed to be getting some I think some new comics.
Okay.
But I need to catch up on the comics too. Like that's one of the things I've been ever since I've been we've been kind of quarantined. Like I've been reading more of the Star Wars comics and like some of the Darth Vader comics, and I want to try to find the Legends ones, but on my app they mostly have the new canon ones, so I'm just like, okay, I'll read them. But some of them were pretty decent, but I want to read that dark one, like that was written by Charles Soule, that I heard is like really good. Mm-hmm. But well, guys, I think honestly that is gonna do it for today's episode. Like we've covered almost all that we wanted to talk about, and like just in terms of like how like all our favorite moments of Star Wars, whether it be experiences or moments from the films or books, and just kind of stuff that we're excited to see someday. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us, and Kelsey, again, thank you for being on the podcast. And we hope that you guys are staying safe out there, staying healthy. Be sure to just keep your hands clean, just practice social distancing, and just stay healthy and stay well. And again, Kelsey, thank you again for being on the show, and give us another reminder about where we can find you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So again, and I'll try to spell it right this time. My website is kjbryan.com, kjbryen.com. Also, you can find me on Facebook.com/kjbryan. You can also find me on Instagram at kjbryan.
Nice. Well, again, thank you again for joining us today. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you have a wonderful, happy Star Wars day. And you guys take care. And again, stay safe, stay healthy. And we will see you guys on the next episode of the NerdPub podcast. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.